Everyone's well, inshallah. Just turning my phone off. I think it was a couple. Let me just check. I can't remember now. Anyway, we covered the section on Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Just the last line, I think, was left previously. Last line was left. Excuse me. The last line was left, and I'll just mention that today. Okay. This was the last line, although we covered the ayat which is mentioned in the I think it's like five, and those two extra ones which are not from the original poem. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. فقد نطق الوحي المبين بفضلهم وفي الفتح آي في الصحابة تمدح. Since the clear revelation has spoken of their excellence, and in al-Fath, meaning Surah Fath, are verses about the companions praising them. Since the clear revelation has spoken of the excellence, meaning the Quran, and Fath are verses, and I mentioned those, لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ, ayat number 18 of Surah Fath, and ayat number 29, which I won't mention because I mentioned last week, Muhammadun Rasulullah وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُم, till the end, ayat number 29, Surah Fath. So you can just refer to the previous lesson. So we covered this last week, although the line of the poem I don't think was covered last week. Today we're only doing one line. وَبِالْقَدَرِ الْمَقْدُورِ أَيْقِنْ فَإِنَّهُ دِعَامَةُ عَقْدِ الدِّينِ وَالدِّينُ أَفْيَحُ. And regarding the preordained qadr, بِقَدَرِ الْمَقْدُورِ, be certain, أَيْقِنْ, since it is di'amatu, the pillar that combines many affairs of the religion, of the deen, and the deen encompasses much. So today we'll cover, just give me 1 second because family's talking a bit loudly outside. I just tell them to just quieten down a second. Just give me a second. Okay. Yeah, so qada and qadr, they're generally used interchangeably. Qadr is basically, it's just to simplify it. Qadr generally is referring to predestined. You could say qada could be destiny, and qadr is the foreknowledge of that. I mean, just in simple terms, just that qadr is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knowing everything about everything that will happen forever, as He does, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And qada is His decree. But generally they're used for the Aqidah concept, they are used interchangeably. All right. Because whatever happens is whatever is decreed is in accordance with the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you could say that the qadr is the foreknowledge and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knowing everything. And qada is His decree, like His whatever happened of that, what He had knowledge of. So and Iman is not complete without it. It's one of the arkan of Iman. And without it, a person is not a Muslim. It's from the, in terms of groups appearing, deviant groups occurring, qadr is an issue in which many groups appeared quite early on in the history of Islam. And also actually whole religions were formed around this issue. And it's related to another issue, which is the issue of, it's called the Epicurus paradox. I think in Arabic it's called Abu Qur or something like that. He is a Greek philosopher. It's the Epicurus paradox or dilemma or problem is to do with the issue of the creation of evil. That, that if we say that God created everything, This is the then na'udzu billah, like then say that God is evil, astaghfirullah azim, and if we say that he didn't create, then we're saying he's incapable, right? So this is a shaitani shubha that has been injected into to confuse human beings, but the thing is that who told you that the one who creates evil is evil, right? And there's whole deans that have around this specific idea. I mean, we're talking about Epicurus is several centuries before Isa alayhi salam, right? So they were discussing this shubha was discussed by other people and nations, and they tried to run away from it, right? So whole deans were created around this idea of trying to run away from this. So that's a lot of if you see like a lot of Buddhism, Shintoism, Majusis, right? Because they have this dualism, right? So you can't have a good God. God can't be good and create evil at the same time. God can only create good. So then they'll create, like, na'udzu billah, they'll create two gods. Or for example, like the Hindus came up with reincarnation and karma, or trying to basically square a circle in their mind. They've created a dilemma. But the thing is that it's a knot they've created in their mind because they're using their aql instead of submitting to what Allah has sent. So you have to accept that Allah creates everything, and you have to accept that everything in the whole universe and everything that happens is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So anyway, these dualistic religions, or they have to create, like, basically they can't accept what a prophet has sent to them with the truth, and then they have to use their own aql. And this is the problem when you put your aql into things that you're supposed to submit to. And it's a wahi, right? So the early groups like Qadariyya, there was a counter basically to the Khawarij. So the Khawarij were one extreme, and then you have other groups springing out. Obviously, like early sort of tashayyu', which should not be misconstrued with like modern day tashayyu'. Like there's early sort of Shi'ism, which doesn't even resemble what we have today. Khawarij and Qadariyya and Jabariyya. So there's like groups are created. They go one extreme, then another group comes in opposition to that. They go the other extreme instead of staying in the middle where the Ahl Sunnah al Jamaat is. And people are influenced by it and their followings and so forth. So their first leaders was Ma'bad al-Juhani and Amr ibn Ubaid. Ma'bad al-Juhani was from Basra. He had some ilm. He was a contemporary of Hassan Basri. And that basically he had this problem that Allah creates, if Allah creates the bad deeds of ibad, right? And then if he's the creator, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of the good and the bad things that all the creation do, right? There's only one creator, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They understood that khalq, they misconstrued khalq with ijbar. Ijbar is that they've been compelled, coerced. This is like you could say the Qadariyya. So not to be confused with Qadiri Sufi tariqas, but Qadariyya, this group, so they were like an extreme, and so they said that if Allah, they could not bring themselves to accept that Allah created everything. If Allah creates everything, Allah creates the good deeds and the bad deeds. If Allah is creating the bad deeds of people, then He's doing zulm, na'udzu billah. And if Allah is above zulm, therefore He didn't create it. So this is the sort of logic that they had, that Allah didn't know their deeds, nor did He, and then they went further. So they then denied Allah, before the deed happens, Allah has no knowledge of it, na'udzu billah, and nor did He create it. Right? So hence, initially I mentioned about qada and qadar. We say qadar and qada, right? So qadar is the foreknowledge, right? Allah knowing everything that will, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creating that which is the qadar, Allah bringing into being His decree, He's implementing, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doing or creating So then, and then they said that this group said that that they create the ibad, the slaves of Allah, creation will create their own actions. You'll hear this statement today as well. We are the creators of our own destiny, right? This is a very strange statement that you'll hear, which is what these groups were. And this was presented to Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. And he said that when they said this in front of him, he said that I am free from them. I have nothing. I absolve myself. I have nothing to do them. They have nothing to do with me. And then in explaining it, he narrated the hadith from his father, which is of course the famous hadith Jibril, which is narrated by Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. You find at the beginning of most books of hadith about what is Iman, what is Islam, and what is Ihsan, and so forth. So the early ones, they were known as the Ghulat of the Qadariyah. They negated the ilm of Allah and they denied the khalq of Allah, that Allah created, right? So Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad, Imam Malik, they all agreed. They based the Ghulat, the extremists of the Qadariyah, especially the early ones, right? But this became defunct. This group became defunct and died out, right? This school, this branch of Qadari died out. But then there's another group, the non-Ghulat, like they were not so extreme like this early proto or early Qadariyah. But they're still within this general circle of, but they're not as extreme as those other ones. However, they did believe, they shared one thing, they didn't deny the ilm of Allah, but they still denied. So these are the ideological descendants of the Ghulat, right? Still. So he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ilm of everything, so they accepted sort of halfway, they're halfway, but then the second half, again, they fell in the same trap. They didn't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, right? And Imam Shafi rahimahullah, he said that when you debate with them, basically gave a tip, that if they accept the ilm, this second group, which is the one that existed in his time, so that other one died off, but this other group that existed, then there's a contradiction, because you're accepting the ilm of Allah, that He has the foreknowledge of all things that happen, that He will decree, and then you're saying that He doesn't create, which like there's a contradiction there. In Imam Shafi pointed out in the second group, right? The Qadariyah themselves are the precursor to and are the foundation of the Mu'tazila. Then another group comes in, Jabariyah, as the name's Jabr says so, that they exaggerated on their rad of the Qadariyah, like the refutation. So the Qadariyah was on one extreme and the Jabariyah came and they just went into the other extreme. So basically from creating your own destiny, the other extreme is that insan has actually no free will, no choice, right? And the first one to do this was Jahm bin Safwan. And Jahm bin Safwan in Qadr, in the matter of Qadr, he's Jabariyah. In matters of Iman, he's Murji'a. And also Quran is created and negated sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Na'udhu billah. Murji'a is a big discussion which we won't get into. Dr. Mutlaq in his class, which I'm basing this on, doesn't get into this. But there's a very elaborate discussion about Murji'a. Like in short, sins don't matter. Put it that way. It's a bit more than that, right? But in short, they sort of we leave everything till they have judgment sort of thing. And there's a whole discussion around what the Murji'a are. And, are there people from the Ahlul Sunnah Jamaat that incline towards Murji'a? There's a whole, we won't get into that. But anyway, this is just talking about the lineage of these people. The middle way, which is the way, which the Ahlul Sunnah Jamaat and the Salaf and so forth, that Allah knew everything, He willed everything, He wrote everything, all right? And then He created everything. And along with this, there's no ijbar, there's no compulsion, right? The Ash'ari say, or Imam Abu Hassan Ash'ari rahimahullah, he said that he's one of the Imams of al-Sunnah, right? Aqidah. Some might not think so, but anyway, let's not get into that. He created, but the Qasib, Allah creates, but the kasib of the amal, you could say the earner, I'm not sure how to translate kasib, is the earner of the act, right? The consequences of the act are, let's see, the recompensa, yeah. There's so many parts you can break that word down. I'm not sure, recompensa. Meaning the earner of the act or the doer of the act. Or you could say not even the doer of the act, the one who accumulates the effects of that act. So the slave, the action of the slave is an occurrence, acquisition, one who acquires. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it doesn't give like the meaning of the context that we're saying. The translations are correct, right? MashaAllah. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like, this is used. Imam Hassan Ashari used it in a certain sense. There's an example that comes to mind. I might have mentioned it before. I'm not sure it's a good example or not, but وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى, you know, Allah's above these examples, but anyway, we'll get to that. Let's see, inshallah. I'll think about it a bit, whether I use the example or not. That the action of the slave is an instance, an occurrence, it's a created thing, right? While the action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is qadim, right? It's pre-eternal. The action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does is pre-eternal. And the action has nothing to do with the effect, right? So the means don't have anything to do with the. So, for example, the knife cutting and the thing being cut, these are two separate things. So Allah has not put effect into the thing, the knife, right? The thing, the cut thing is cut, but that's a separate thing to the actual knife, and the knife is not responsible for the cut thing. So similarly, the fire, the effect of fire burns. Fire doesn't burn. Fire doesn't burn. But when something is put into fire, the effect of fire is created. So there's the cause. And anyway, like Ibrahim alayhi salam is put into the fire, and then the fire doesn't burn him. So it's still fire, but it doesn't burn him. They negate the Asharis, and there's Asharis disagree with this view. Like, this is not accepted wholesale, right? They negate the effect of the asbab, or he negated the effect of the asbab. And the argument given from the Hanbalis is that this is, in reality, it's a roundabout way of saying Jabr, right? The Jabariyah, which is that you have no choice, right? Your actions have no meaning in terms of its outcome. It has no effects. Right. I hope you understand what I'm saying. That your actions have no meaning, and so it's like a roundabout way of saying what there is a difference, but they say, well, the end conclusion is the same, really. So your actions have no meaning in terms of its outcomes. Wallahu alam. So basically, if you break down these schools, you'll have the ghulat, the extremists, right? The defunct school, which died out, which is the first ilm and khalq. They negate the knowledge of Allah, and na'uzubillah, they negate the khalq of Allah, both. So this is then there's a non-ghulat, which is the non-extremist among the Qadariyah, who are precursor to Mu'tazila, and they're refuted by Imam Bukhari in his book Khalq Af'al al-Ibad. Then you have a second, so those are two subgroups under the ghulat, the extremists and non-extremists, right? In terms of the Qadariyah. And then you have the Jabariyah, which I just mentioned. Then you have the Ash'aris, who have this view, and not all Ash'aris are on the same page regarding this. And then you have the what the Salaf and generally the Ahlul Hadith and so forth, they affirm Qadr. They affirm the that is the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Mashiach, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes. Of course, on all these each words, there's a whole chapters of knowledge that you'll find in detailed Aqidah books. How? Right? Simply that Allah created, like, kaif, like why, how all of this, you know? No, Allah created your act. You have done it. All right. Like you're the one that, as mentioned before, acquired it, or you're the one that is responsible for that, and you have affected it. Right. So if I speak now, this is my act, and it's my will, and this is my acquiring or earning, good or bad. At the same time, Allah is creating it, and while He has not imposed this on me, in the sense of that He has given a choice in this matter, and given. And one of my teachers, when explaining this, he said that these groups, because as part of this one, you have to submit to. You have to submit that Allah is the creator of everything. Like, it's such a simple thing, right? You know, like such a fundamental thing. So Allah is Khaliq kulli shay, is a creator of everything, right? But because these groups try to go into trying to understand it with something other than what Allah has sent, then that is a aql, which has limitations. When I'm saying aql, like an aql that will try to give interpretation that is not there, right? You're not being told anything, because these are matters of the ghaib, right? So, and since they're matters of the ghaib, now you have to accept what's come to you wholesale. Like you have to accept the whole lot. You cannot just, no matter how much your mind is telling you that it can't bring itself to accept, you have to submit to what Allah subhanahu. That's the name of Islam, right? That it's Islam means submission. So, yeah, so they couldn't wrap their head. I'm just putting Imam Saffarini's commentary. I won't put it up on the screen, but I was just having a look at it earlier on the Haaiya's commentary. It's a very long discussion on this specific, and I won't go into it, but what he said. So I'm just reading somebody's message. Yeah, it's making my head hurt a little bit. Maybe simplify it, inshallah. Let me read what's in the book, and then I'll have a look at the comments, inshallah. Yeah. This is that's well. That last bit, the free will choice, trying to determine. This is what my teacher said. These groups came out of trying to figure out where the line was between free will and Allah's will overriding everything, like where you don't have free will. He said that is like trying to go into the sif of Allah, trying to comprehend the sif of Allah, or intellectually with your brain trying to, trying to understand the sifa of Allah, which is beyond our comprehension. We've been told what we've been told, like the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is it. Like that's not, we just accept it, and we are not to go more in detail than that. And similarly in this one, in understanding this as well, that these groups, he said that these groups, they came out of this problem because they tried to figure out where that line was, and instead of just submitting. So Imam Saffirini rahimahullah said, I'll just sort of skim through it because it's a few pages, and it's actually more than that, which is a few pages I made notes on. That the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaat in this, what is praiseworthy and what the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaat have chosen is the wasat, which is in between ifrat and tafrit, right? The two extremes. They don't go into the extremes, right, of the Qadariyah, the negators, and they don't go into the other extreme, right? The extreme, you could say, probably a better word for it, but they underdo it, the underwhelming and underdoing, not doing enough of Jabariyah, which basically they try to prove that qadr is the reason why we commit sins. The madhab of the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaat, and look at the word that he uses, and the Salafi muhaqqiq, you know, I got to put a massive footnote for this page. Look what he says. For madhab Ahlus Sunnah, all of them, from the Salaf al-Asariya, is which our lineage of our, you know, Hanbali Athari school, wal Khalaf al-Ash'ariyya wal Maturidi, and the Khalaf of the Ash'aris and Maturidis, and there's a big footnote that the Ahlus Sunnah Jama'at one can't help themselves. They get triggered when they hear the Ahlus Sunnah Jama'at 3. But anyway, that all the types of obediences and sins, kufr and fasad, all the actions and deeds and works and speech occur by the qada of Allah and His qadr. He is the khaliq of all of them. There is no khaliq except for Him, right? And the af'al of the ibad, the actions of the slaves, are all created only by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's good, it's khayriha wa sharriha, it's good and it's evil, wa husniha wa qabi, it's beautiful and it's good and it's ugly. And the slave is not majboor, right? He has not been compelled on these actions, but he's made able to do them, right? بِإِقْدَارِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى عَلَى ذَلِكَ. He's been given the ability to do these actions, right? And this qadr is in agreement by the three groups of Ahlul Sunnah al-Thalatha. هذا القدر باتفاق الطوائف أهل السنة ثلاثة. According to the three. Who are the three? The Athariya, the Ash'ariyya, Maturidiyya. Right? And then he explains the difference between Abu Hassan Ash'ari rahimahullah and others regarding this. The kasb matter. I'll read it just so, but I won't go into it because then it gives like tract after tract of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah, his refutation on it, where he doesn't agree with it. ثم اختلف فقال أشهد. Then there's a different opinion. Imam Abu Hassan Ash'ari and those who follow him or agree with him, right? That the abd is the muktasib. He's the acquirer or the earner that he establishes for the slave kasb. And it would mean that the abd is capable of doing the act, but he does not have the power or the effect for that, as it be mentioned. And this is the Jamhur Ulama Uqala. All the wise people have said, Ibn Taymiyyah quotes this, that it is one of the three matters that the ulama have discussed, but doesn't have a reality. It doesn't even make sense. Like in that, basically these are like, what does this even mean? Like at the end of it all, like it's zero sum sort of discussion. Quoting one of the Athari Imams, Ibn Hamadan, in his في نهاية المبتدئين, his Aqidah book of the Atharis, and this is, I think, this is the one that what's his name? Sheikh Musa, Sheikh John. No, that's Albani's commentary. I think I'll the case of that. No. Yeah, so let's. You guys are Aqidah experts, mashallah. So we're not going to go. That's why I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. But mashallah, you guys are done your reading, so you guys should teach for wise. But Allah barik alaykum. I feel like I've been tested here. And Ibn Hamadan rahimahullah says that al-kasbu huma khalaq Allah fi mahalli qudrat al-muktasib wa ala wifqi irati fi kasbi. So al-kasab, right, that acquiring or earning, it is what Allah creates in the place of in the place of the ability of the one earning according to his will in his kasab. Let's leave it there, and then I think I made another note as well here. Um, yeah, if you just go to maybe I can send. It's on page 141. It actually starts before that. I just made that one is on page 138. الجزء الثاني of Lawaaih al-Anwaar al-Saniyya. So this is a sharh of Haaiya, Imam Saffirini rahimahullah, 138, volume 2. Right. So yeah, you'll have to look for it. It's a well-known version. Like I said, the footnotes get interesting. You know, it's actually a good way to actually know what like a mutaakhir from the Hanbali say and what the modern sort of Salafi, who also claim lineage to the Imam Ahmad Hanbal and Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, and also he quotes, he has, I don't know, like people use Taymiyyah as an insult today, like he's a Taymi, like someone said about one Shaykh in America, he's a Taymiyyah, right? Or that's so-and-so the Taymi. Like Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah rahmullah was such a giant, a superstar of the Hanbalis, regardless of what people say. And the Imam Safari, you can just see just pages and pages, like it's like like I'm just reading this section here. It's like the half of it is just his quotes, right? Like paragraphs, like 7, 8 lines, 10 lines, quote after quote. Like he's processed it within the Hanbali Mazhab and others as well. It's not just Shaykh Islam. There are other Imams as well. Anyway, I digress. And then he refers back to maybe my translation is very bad, right? No, they don't. That's what I'm going through now. Like it's, I just mentioned it before that they don't accept it either. So in Taymiyyah's like views, that's what Imam Saffirini is echoing over and over again. So he says, as for the madhab of the Salaf al-Salih, al-muthbitun al-qadar, who affirm the qadar, من جميع الطوائف فإنهم يقول إن العبد فاعل لفعله حقيقة, that the slave is doing the action in reality. وإن له قدرة حقيقة واستطاعة حقيقة لا ينكر تأثير الأسباب الطبيعية. So we استطاعة, he has been given the ability and power in itself حقيقة ولا ينكرون تأثير الأسباب. There is no negation of the effect of أسباب الطبيعية. بل يقول ما دل عليه شرع الواقع من الله تعالى وأن الله تعالى يخلق السحاب الرياح وينزل الماء السحاب. لا يقول. Yeah, so, and at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the creator and the causer of the means. He's the khaliq of the sabab and the musabbab, that which is caused as well. Anyway, at the end, the Hasil, he says, at the madhab of the Salaf and the muhaqqiq Ahl Sunnah, the researchers of Ahl Sunnah and the great that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has created the qudrat al-abd, the ability of the capability of the abd, and his will, وإرادته وفعله, وأن العبد فاعل لفعل حقيقة ومحدث لفعل والله تعالى هو الذي جعله فاعلا محدثا لقوله تعالى وما تشاءون إلا إن شاء الله. I hope that if you understand enough Arabic, because it seems like you guys are advanced students or your stuff. So, page 142, if you read that, then he summarized the end that according the hasil, the end conclusion is the madhab of the Salaf and the muhaqqiqi of the okay. and the conclusion is the madhab al-salaf and the muhaqqiq al-sunnah ta'ala, because you can't see this, I do apologize for as well. I realize you're following the slide as well, so I'm just sort of skimming through it and without realizing you're not even looking at the book. He created the ability of the slave and his will and his act, and that the slave is the doer of the action in reality, and the and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who makes the made him the act, the doer, and the cause of it. And وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. And this affirms the will of the slave, but this cannot be except by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he quotes Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah. I'll leave that there. Yeah, I'm losing track of what I'm defining as well. So I do apologize if I'm because I've got the Arabic in front of me, and then I'm just sort of, sometimes you translate 1 minute one way and the next. So let's get back to the. That was just a side note. Lawaaih as well, and I think Lawaaih is a commentary on his Dur al-Muliyah. His poem has detailed discussion on this. That's more intermediate, advanced level discussion Aqidah. I think we sort of diverging from the main topics and just keeping this simple, inshallah, bidnillah. Can you see why is my slide, your screen sharing is paused? Why would it be paused? Can you see the slide? Okay, good. Interesting. In simply saying that, summarizing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the four levels, right? He knows what was, what is, what will be. If it wasn't what it would be, he knows everything. That which is possible, which is not possible, even that things that never happened as well, he knows. There's nothing outside the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the first thing. So his ilm, we believe in that Allah knows everything. What was, what is, what will be, right? He wrote, secondly, he wrote everything. And there's a discussion, what was created first? Was the arsh created first or the qalam created first? It's a side topic. And then there's different types of writing. That which is written, that is in pre-eternal, right? It's azaliyah, like it's pre-eternal. Destinies are written. That which is it's called khalqiyah. It's what the angels write, but it's really an extension of the first one, which is like like what's written in azal. And then there's hawliyah. Once a year, the decrees are distributed, right? For the year, it's once a year that the people's destinies are distributed and written. And then there's Yawmiyah daily is written for everybody. So thirdly, so that's under writing. But at the end of the day, simply to note that Allah subhanahu knows and he wrote. And then thirdly, he willed, his Mashiach, which is what he willed. That is, Allah wills the qada and qadar. What will be is what he wants. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ without ijbar and without ikrah, compulsion, right? Without compulsion. And the fourth one is khalq. He created everything. He created all this creation and created all the slaves, ibad, and the actions. And Allah is khaliq kulli shay. Wallahu khalaqum wa ma ta'malun. It's very clear cut. So this shubha, this was presented in the time of Rasulullah by Sahaba radiallahu anhu. They asked the question. They asked Rasulullah, Sahaba radiallahu asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Allah has created, if Allah has created everything, then what is why would we do any action? Like, and the Rasulullah said, "I'malu," carry on doing good deeds. Everyone will find it easy to do such good deeds for which they has been created, right? Muyassar, right? It made muyassar, meaning it will be made easy for him to do that. So it's basically like the answer that Rasulullah said, keep doing the good deeds, that everything will find it easy to do such good deeds for which he has been created, right? The word that is used is muyassar, which is a word of the in the Quran as well, that it made easy or facilitated for them. So keep doing it and Allah will facilitate, or keep doing and that you will do what is made easy for you. So Dr. Mutlaq, when explained that a person is not made, he didn't say musayyid, that a person is not, it's not imposed upon him what he will do, right? He's not made to force to do something like the Jabariya believed, right? Nor that he, on the other extreme, like the Jabariya and Qadiriya, knocked out by this and the ayat al-Quran in Surah Wal-Layli Idha Yaghsha, by the night as it conceals, by the day as it appears in glory, by the mystery of the creation of the male and by the male and creation of the male and the female, verily the end you strive for are diverse. So he gives in charity and fears Allah and sincere testifies the best. We will indeed make smooth for him. That's one translation. Or make easy for him, right? And same in reverse as well. And we'll make it easy for him the path of misery. So this making smooth or easy, right? He makes and arranges the asbab. So the fourth point is that he does not. So the above 4 points are very important in regards to qada and qadar. If you break it down, that Allah subhanahu knows, Allah writes, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates without ijbar, right? Dr. Mutlaq did say that you're free, right? But again, I mentioned to one of my other teachers, he said that, like that, trying to pin down the exact point of your free will, you will not do except what Allah will. You cannot will or do what Allah except what Allah wills. That's the dilemma there, is you're trying to, astaghfirullah azim, trying to go into the sifa of Allah subhanahu, that is beyond your thing, and that's where people get messed up. So, and then you're not to use qadr or this excuse for committing sins. I'm like, Allah has written it this way. No. Masa'ib, calamities such as sickness, are not because of a ma'aib, the deficiencies and faults and mistakes. They are yours, because you are, again, as we mentioned earlier, the kasib. You are the fa'il. That Allah, you cannot. There's a qaida there that which you cannot shirk the responsibility of your sins onto qadr, basically, in short, right? You can say that masa'ib has occurred, is out of my control. Calamities occur in my life. People are sick, people die, all these sort of things. This is, you can say, ma qaddarullah sha, what Allah subhanahu has decreed, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has destined, that's what happened. But your ma'a'ib, your masa'ib, you can say that, but ma'a'ib, like your aib, like the mawdu' al-aib, like you cannot attribute that to qadr. You cannot use qadr as an exit, as the murji'ah did, that qadr, they used that as an exit of basically doing away with all, and they basically opened the door of the murji'ah. That's what they're known for. There's a whole discussion on murji'ah which I don't want to get into, but that's what they used as the exit door from any a'mal or any responsibility indeed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I hope it wasn't too much, I didn't answer everybody's questions, but is there, stop there inshallah, any questions?